There, we're live. You can share it on Facebook if you want to. So what I do is I'm going to be reading your intro off of my phone.
Okay.
I don't have a teleprompter. It's out of my head, or I have to read the intros so I don't screw them up. But
that's quite right.
I screw up every intro anyway, so I don't know. It's just like people like it when I mess up, so I don't try to be perfect.
You know, it's funny. I've gotten introduced on stage as a comic as Carlos Diaz. And my name is not Carlo. And I go, why'd you call me Carlos? And they go, because you look like a Carlos. And I, really? The name they mistake the most for me is Carlos.
Hi, Facebook people. These interviews are for you at home, live, wherever, clothes on, clothes off. Who cares? These are for you because I've seen you come to comedy shows and you don't know who you're coming to see. You just want to get away from the kids, you know, and you come to the show and you leave and you go, he wasn't my cup of tea, or she wasn't that funny. Well, now's your chance to find out if you think Jose Angel Diaz is funny off stage. And if he is, if you like him and you think he's got the chops, then you follow him on social media. You go to his shows, you send him all your money. It's like a cult. Comedy is a cult. Welcome to the cult. Just sit back, watch the blinking lights. We're going to talk like we're old friends that met at Starbucks today. That's what's going to happen. Even though I've been in the company of Jose probably 20 times at Gladys Simon's Zoom party every Wednesday that it used to be. Yeah, Gladys Simon from Comic Strip, live in New York City, the Gladys Simon room. That Gladys Simon, well, she is Gladys Simon because she knows Jose Angel Diaz. Don't get it twisted. Let me read you the intro I have here. Jose is a comedian and actor who has appeared on a couple of sitcoms on Comedy Central. Did you hear what I just said? He's appeared on a couple sitcoms on Comedy Central, including Broad City and Alternatino. He was also featured on Netflix's Marvel's Luke Cage alongside Method Man. You guys. He can also be seen on pharmaceutical commercials. I don't know if it's that kind. Pharmaceutical commercials and lottery commercials in New York and New Jersey. This guy's connected. Am I right? Jose is currently working as a writer, producer, and sketch actor in the No Filter comedy show, which I love, which has dropped several episodes on YouTube. Jose hails from New York City, where he was born and raised. He holds a master's in business administration, wow, from Wagner College on Staten Island, and is the proud father of 2 daughters. So right now, give it up. Oh, there's nobody to give it up. I'll give it up for you in proxy, close proximity to him. Give it up right now, you guys, for Jose Angel Diaz. Woo!
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I like applauding for myself. You know?
It's the best thing we do. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Have you ever clapped for yourself? They go, give it up for Jose Diaz, and you're clapping for yourself.
Not normally, no. only today. Today was my first time.
Jose, where are you at right now? You're in your little library.
I am home on Staten Island in my little library. This is where I like to do my Zoom shows because nobody gets to see my degrees on the wall unless I put them on Zoom, right? Because then, you know, that way it's proof, right? People, you know, I think some of the people on Gladys's show would comment on my backdrop and thought it was fake. Mine happens to be real. I don't have a green screen, so.
That's amazing. I love your diplomas. How many diplomas do you have? 3?
So I have an associate's in business, a bachelor's in business, and an MBA in business. So I did them one after the other. As an adult, as a matter of fact, I started going to school at 33 years old and did them all by the time I was 42, nonstop. And when I finished my master's, my wife at the time said, "Why don't you go for your PhD?" And I almost shot her because
Wow.
it was just I was doing it while I was going to school and raising my daughters and coaching them in sports and doing that at night. So once I was done at 42, I just didn't want to go back to school anymore. Enough is enough.
You coached them in sports?
I coached them both in basketball. I coached women's softball. I did a lot of, I coached different kids at the Y. So I do a lot of coaching and mentoring and tutoring because I didn't put in my bio that I did work for a major telecommunications company for 37 and a half years, in addition to doing comedy and everything else. But during those times, I enjoyed giving back and doing some mentoring, some tutoring, and some coaching of kids in basketball and adults. And I like to give back to the community because they gave a lot to me.
That's so awesome. Well, let's go back to Lil Jose. I just
Jose.
love trying to picture who you were at 5 and 6 and 7 years old at home and in your early school life. Quiet, shy. Were you the clown? What were you?
So interestingly enough, I was at home, I was very quiet. So I'm the middle child of 5 children. I have 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters. And my mother, rest her soul, would tell me when I was a little kid, I'd be there by myself drawing pictures facing a wall. So I was pretty much a loner. And you asked me if I was funny in school and stuff. At school, I remember being in the 3rd grade and I used to make the kids laugh. So at home, I was quiet, but in school, I made people laugh. And I remember my desk mate tell me, "You're so funny. Why don't you become a clown?" And I said, "I'm not a clown." You know, but I always like to make people laugh because I guess we're all sad in a way when we're kids. And if you make other people laugh, it makes you feel good. So that's why I like to make other people laugh. And that's why I pursued doing comedy for many of those same reasons.
Absolutely. So in grade school and high school, what did you excel in? What were you like growing up to be around?
So I've always thought myself to, it's interesting. You say in high school, junior high, in junior high school once, I had a printing class and we had to make business cards. And on the business cards, I said, Jose Angel Diaz, problem solver. I don't know why I did that, but I used to like to listen to people's problems and help them get through it because a lot of people couldn't get through stuff. And maybe that's why I like to make people laugh, right? So you can cope with your problems.
That's why you and Gladys get along. She
Oh
loves
yeah,
to.
Gladys will say we go back 150 years, but it's probably around, what year is it? It's probably around 25 or so that we go back. We used to do shows at the DoubleTree guest suites and different places that our paths crossed. But yeah, Gladys is a lovely, lovely lady. I used to host her show at the Comic Trick back in the early 2000s. When I moved to Jersey and started working in Jersey, I couldn't do them, but we had a lot of fun back then. She's a wonderful, wonderful lady.
Yes, she is. She's for real. That's for sure. And Helene and the whole gang there at Comic Strip going way back.
So you did ask me what did I excel in, right? So I was as a child, I was put in the IGC classes, which is intelligently gifted children. Why? I have no idea. I had nothing to do with that, right? But I did like to read a lot back then. And I was pretty good in school until I got lazy and bored. I was one of those kids that got bored easily. I would remember things and pass tests, but I got bored very easily. So sometimes I did my homework. Most times I didn't. But I did well because I could retain things. I talk about retention. And I used to play Trivial Pursuit with friends of mine. And I remember I kept beating this guy. And he said, you're not that smart. You just have good retention. Wait, let me think about that for a moment.
If you're really good at retaining, you become anally retentive.
Well, I never got that far. I didn't get that good at retaining.
I branded myself growing up as an efficiency expert.
An efficiency expert.
I always thought I could find the easiest way because I was lazy.
Right. So you learn to work smart, not hard, right? You gotta, yeah.
Yeah. That's funny how we label ourselves. How did other people around you label you besides this one person that said you're not smart, you just have good retention? What were some other labels you got from other teachers and family?
Ooh, interesting. I was, as the middle child, I was always the one that was engaged with all the family members, right? I was the one that was always around because I used to take my mother around. She passed away a couple of years ago, but I was the one that took her to my grandmother's house and to my aunt's houses and took her different places and took care of her because that's just who I was. I was around family. So everybody kind of liked me. They thought I was kind and funny and sweet and helpful. And yes, all my life, I think I've been that way. Now, of course, the people that don't know me, oh, he's full of himself, you know. But
Yeah. If they don't know you, they're going to get a totally different opinion.
right.
That's why I like knowing what people who really knew you thought.
Yeah, so for the most part, again, I thought they thought I was friendly and kind and helpful and supportive for the most part. I've always been that way. I think I always tried to be that way. Maybe
So
not
you're
a
kind
hundred.
of like a millennial.
Wow. I don't think I've ever been called, I don't think I've been called a millennial before. Being born in 1959, I don't know. I was too young to be a baby boomer. I guess, not like a baby boomer. I don't know what you would call me. I was, yeah, but never a millennial or never a generation X or Y or Z. So my
Yeah.
daughters are, but
How's that work for you? Having daughters that, that are of the new mindset.
I never thought about it. So my daughters, by the way, one is 36 and one is 26, right? So they're in two different generations. And I'm divorced. So my youngest daughter was 10 at the time. So it's been about 16 years. Um, I think we got along well because I always communicated with them openly and gave them my thoughts and feelings, and I accepted their thoughts and feelings. We debated a couple of issues. One of my daughters is a flat earther, but I said, get over it. I said, the earth is not flat. You've been on a plane. You can see the curvature of the earth. She goes, yeah, but it's more like a disc. Yeah, sure it is.
Oh, geez.
But and one time we were having this discussion on climate change. Now, I'm not a climate change denier. I just find it hard to believe that in 100 years, humans can destroy a planet that's been here for 4 billion years. Although I believe the science and I believe that we do have an impact in it. So I used to get into those little debates with my daughter, but they got over it. I got over it. I'm a believer. No.
It's great to have opinions and have debates and learn. People don't know the art of debating, and still remaining friendly afterwards. It's a lost art.
It is a lost art. You mentioned debating, and I often bring that up in conversation with people that when people are one-sided, I remember when I was going for my undergrad degree, and we had a debate class. And in the debate class, they didn't tell you which side of the debate you were going to be on, whether you were pro or con. So you had to do all the research because they told you 2 weeks before the debate which side you were going to be on. So I use that as an example of people to say, you need to know all the facts of the issue so you can take either side and be able to, stand up for either side on it, because you have to know all the facts. Most times we only know the facts we want to know, right? Because we only watch what we want to watch or listen to what we want to listen to. I'm open-minded enough to know, yeah, there's points to both sides. So you got to learn how to debate those. I have on occasion debated people on the side that I wasn't on because I knew that they didn't have enough facts on the side they were on, right? So
That's
but
incredible.
that's just knowing enough about the topic to be able to debate it. If not, you shouldn't. If you don't know, right?
Wow. I love listening to comedians that talk about a topic and they'll talk about this side of it, and then they'll go over and talk about this side. And they'll totally break down both sides. I don't know if you've heard people that are in comedy do that, but it's really interesting and funny to me that they can, like, let's say they talk about getting a brand new fridge, like you should get a brand new fridge because they offer a discount, they can finance it, but on the other hand, I like the one where the Maytag repairman never has to show up, or some, when they go on both sides of a topic. I find it funny when they drill down to that effect.
I think you're right. I used to do a bit on the education system, how the parents blame the system and the system blames the parents, right? And in fact, it is that the system and the parents have to be engaged to make your kids smarter, right? You can't say, oh, it's his fault, it's their fault. So I agree with you. It can be funny. It's hard work to be able to do that, to be
Yeah,
able to take both sides. But I enjoy doing that because I try and be a comic that's a bit cerebral sometimes and make people think that they don't get to, they laugh at it, then they get to say, oh, wait a minute, what he really said was, and then maybe they get it later, you know.
absolutely. It seeps in.
It does, it does.
It does. So let's talk about you growing up, going to college, having 3 degrees, and deciding, you know what? You know what's important? Making people laugh. Talk
So,
about that. Talk about
so
that.
what's interesting is that as I mentioned before, I started going for my degrees as an adult. I was working at this major telecommunications company that shall remain nameless, right? Only because we don't want to plug anybody, right? And but I always wanted to be funny, and I remember watching my heroes on television, like Richard Pryor. I used to watch the Norm Crosby show, where they used to have these secret comedians come out. It was on Saturday afternoons. I'd stay inside in the summertime and watch these comics. I'd watch Johnny Carson late at night to watch the comics go on and stuff. So I always like to make people laugh. The first time I went on stage was at a place called Catch a Rising Star in New York City. That was about, I guess I was 25 years old, and I was on a high. I went on stage once. I did okay. I got some laughs. I did 5 minutes. I was nervous and no, but I was on a cloud for a year and a half. And then I started doing it. And then what happens around the same time I start doing comedy, I get promoted at work. So I had to put that on the back burner and then start pursuing that. And as I became management stuff in the company, I kind of still did comedy on the side, but my job was more important because I had to feed the family. And that was what I pursued. So I tried to pursue both at the same time, comedy, an education, life, coaching the kids, helping them with school, doing all those things to, because at the time when I was married earlier, the wife said, you can quit your job and do that full time. I think she wanted to be well kept, right? so, so, but I knew struggling as a kid that you had to be able to pay the bills and make life better for the kids, our kids. And that's what I did. So I always did the comedy and I did some road work on the side while I was still working, which is very difficult doing a full-time job and doing stand-up. And in the meantime, I was doing some short films and I was doing some industrials and some commercials. And luckily I had seniority, so I had time off and I was able to take time off to do it. So, but comedy was always my backdrop, because comedy is a stress relief. As a comic yourself, that you could, there was times that I dropped out for 6 years or so, not doing comedy at all because I was going to school and I missed it, right? I'd be more stressed and I'd go out there and do comedy one night and be at ease again, and then I found that that's the thing I like to do, that and acting, because when you do comedic acting, they can see you on screen and you say, that was funny. Well, I see it and say, that was funny. Maybe you'll like it, So I'm going to plug the show, right? No Filter Comedy on YouTube. There's about 5 episodes out there, and there's a bunch of TikTok skits that we did that have gotten over 2 million hits. One is called Hey Gringo. So if you find it on TikTok, look it up and you'll see me in there and Flora, who and a couple of others folks that are in those bits.
Love you guys. Thanks a lot for what you do, because that's
Well,
very entertaining.
and we love you because you're very entertaining.
I can't
have my,
help it. So talk to me about your acting and your commercials. I want to hear all about that.
So acting and commercial. So as I was through comedy, I met some people at the Boston Comedy Club many years ago, and they were doing these seminars where you could meet these agents. And you would go and they would have you read some lines or read a script. And then some of them, you might do a little stand-up routine, 3 or 4 minutes, give me a headshots, and then we'll call you back and say, I can use you. So about probably 2004, maybe, was the first time that I met one of these agents. Actually, her name is Ingrid French, right? And she started sending me out on stuff. And the first role I ever played, I was about 40 years old, and they needed an old grandfather. Right. And this industrial film for the Department of Labor, I was playing a dying grandfather, Hispanic male grandfather that was going to leave his millions of dollars to his granddaughters if they learned how to speak English, right?
Jeez. Oh,
It was amazing. And I got the bug because I remember the first time I sat in the makeup chair and the makeup lady comes and they pamper you, right? So because I was only 40, they had to make me look 70 or 80. So they had to put latex on my face and make me look old and put the makeup and the gray hair but it felt so good to be pampered in the makeup chair. And I just got hooked got bitten by the bug. And so I've done probably 40 different pieces of either television or industrial films or things like that. And it's just great to do. In addition to a couple of short films that I did, there's some that we produced ourselves and another one that I did called, I forget the name of it. I did it with my mind went blank who I did it with. I was gonna wear the shirt, right? But I forgot. There's a couple of short films. I'll have to send it to you so you know.
no
But
problem.
we did a thing, a bunch of comedians, it's still out there on YouTube. We did a thing called Gentrified, Fried, myself and Hector Luis and Johnny Zito and a bunch of others, and we were going to try and sell it. It's about a neighborhood in Brooklyn being gentrified and what we're going to do to try and fix it up, right? If you get a chance, it's about a 7-minute promo that's out there on YouTube somewhere. It's called Gentrified, like your brain is fried. And it was a lot of fun doing because we self-produced it, we edited it, did the whole thing. And it's out there in the internet. You can watch it.
When we get done here, will you send me the link to Gentrified and
I certainly will.
the Flora Gillard episodes so that you and Flora get some promo time out of this video clip too?
Absolutely. I will find them and send them to you. Yep.
And anywhere that you're at on social media, what is it you're trying to accomplish by the time you get to 71 years of age like me and die?
You're not dying yet. You're not 70. Stop it. So
71.
my goal, believe it or not, has always been to become recognizable enough that when I do my tutoring and mentoring and all those things, that the kids could believe in me because they see me. Because the children today, they're impressed by, big name stars, by rap stars or rock stars or football players and basketball players. And the chances of them becoming that is very slim. But I want them to identify with me to say, I came from the same neighborhood you came from. I came from being poor in a family of 5 and not always having all the clothes you want and all the nice things you want. But if you recognize me, maybe you'll listen to me. And if I sit there and try and either coach you in basketball or tutor you in English or in writing, then maybe you'll listen because you'll see me and say, hey, he's one of the people that made it out of here. So that's always been my goal, not to make millions of dollars from becoming a famous comic. That's not really that important to me because money's material, right? You can be worth, you could be Elon Musk and be worth $250 billion. And then what? Right. I still want attention, so that's my goal, is to be, again, recognizable enough so people could say, hey, I'll tell you a quick story. I was doing a tutoring session or a mentoring session in Washington Heights, New York. It's a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood with a lot of immigrants and stuff. And I'm doing, you tell them about your life and how to go to school and stuff. And I tell them that I was in Luke Cage. And one of the kids in the class had seen that episode of Luke Cage. And after class, he said, can I have your autograph?
Aw.
Right. So
that's everything.
To that kid, I had made it. And maybe I reached him because maybe he wants to make it because he met somebody that got out of the same thing. Because I would explain to them, I grew up in the same kind of neighborhoods and grew up in a big family and we didn't have it all, but you can get out of this and make it all. So that's my goal, to make more kids get out of poverty and move up the world and tell them that you have a chance. You can do anything you want to do, but you just have to work hard to do it.
That's fabulous. So what would you like to tell people that are looking here that might be people who want to go see comedy, want to see you? What would you like to say to comics that are looking at you and people that like comedy that are looking at you right now, from your heart to theirs?
From my heart to theirs. So my goal has always been, when I do comedy, to be true to my comedy. So my comedy is based on life and situations in life and things like that. And it's based on, I try sometimes say it's 95% true. Yeah, we exaggerate a little bit. But to the comics, I say, when you do your material, be true to you, right? I try not to be silly when I do comedy because I don't think silly might sell for some. but people don't want to go to see you if you're always silly, right? If you have, I believe if you have a message in your comedy and you make it funny and you make people think, and maybe you can make a change in the way our society is, and that's what you got to go for. And that's what I go for. So I touch on a lot of those things to try and make people realize or wake up to reality, as opposed to, again, silliness and slapstick. And although slapstick can be funny, and if you watch a lot of our skits, you'll see how some of that stuff goes over the edge.
I
That's what I
can't.
like to tell them. And for the audience members, right, I find that if I have an audience that's in tune with what's going on around them, or is better educated and understands all aspects of life, whether it be religion or history or something else, that they can appreciate my humor more because they get it, right? When they don't, if you work to, so I don't know, Linda, I've seen some of your material, and you try to work to all ages of crowds, right? But sometimes really young comics work to a really young crowd. So if you're working to an older crowd, they're going, yeah. Nobody understands. So you have to make the range be where you can cover the 20-year-olds, the millennials, the what you called me before. How dare you, Tui? The millennials all the way to the seniors. You got to be able to reach them all in your humor. You won't get 100%, but if you get half of them, that's a good laugh.
That's a good laugh. That's a
That's
lot
a
of
good
fun.
laugh.
It makes it a lot of fun when you're rewriting your material, because you're like, well, I got the young people to laugh, but now I lost the older people.
Right.
It's always evolving.
It is, and I think when you've been doing it for as long as probably we have, you learn how to read an audience, right? You learn how to feel that energy and know where you can take things. It's I remember being told that many, many, many years ago, and yeah, how do you read an audience? But you do, right? You can sense the energy in the room and which way you can go. So that's how you decide what material I'm going to use today. Am I going to do religious material? If it's a young crowd, they're not going to get it. If it's a middle-aged to older crowd, they probably will get it more. So, and I don't think there's any topic that you can't really touch. But if you touch some topics that are really bad, or you have to really make it funny for it to work, right? If not, stay away from it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's so much fun, is like, I want to talk about this topic and I want to talk about it to this audience. And how do I make it funny? Because I know what I want to say, but will that translate to them as being funny? Because, we've all seen the comedians that have stories and they don't think they need to write anything, just go up and wing it. And they're like, you need to put pen to paper.
Yeah, I agree. You put pen to paper. I tell people all the time, that you have the best writing tool with you all the time, which is your phone. And your phone has notes and it has a microphone, right? And you can go in there when you think of something, you don't have a pen and paper, you have your phone. Go to your notes, talking to your phone, give it, and that's how I do my writing a lot of times now, is I talk it into my phone, and then you write it out later, or you work it out later. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you gotta write stuff. The problem with today is things change so fast that if you're going to be topical, you got to be able to change every week.
Every
Right?
week.
Every week, you got to be able to change some of your material.
One of the things that has helped me is, like a lot of times we're doing comedy to other comics on Zoom or whatever. I try to write 3 or 4 or 5 punchlines to every joke. So
Right.
when I'm doing jokes, people don't know what my punchline is. And that keeps the comics like off guard.
Right, because they might know your type of material, not that particular joke, but no, yeah, and that's what you call, that's misdirection, right? And which one am I going to use? So what's interesting, you say that when you're, another tip to comics and other people, when you write material. So let me go back to the first time I did comedy on the I did it at Catch a Rising Star, but I used to write my material verbatim on index cards, right? And then you memorize every card. And then so it worked the first time, but then I remember going on stage, like the second or third time I went on stage, and I forgot line number 2 on card number 3, right? And then everything else is lost, right? Because now you're reading, what happens is you're reading it off the top of your head, and then it sounds robotic and it doesn't work. What I've learned now is, as you get older and have more experience, you know what you're going to talk about, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same every time. I might change it because the crowd is younger, because the crowd is older, or because that's that day I felt like saying a different word, but it's the same joke. It's the same story. It's the same concept. So don't stick to the script all the time. Sometimes you just got to go with the flow wherever the crowd takes you.
Yes. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, saying the wrong word. Go with it,
You go with
like,
it. You know, not to interrupt. What's funny is that the audience doesn't know what you're going to say. So if you messed up a joke, they don't know it unless you tell them. So stop telling them, oh, I screwed that one up.
yes,
Just go with the joke, go with the flow, go with the next punchline, go with the next 5 or 6 punchlines that you wrote, right? And try to make those the funny ones. And
absolutely.
sometimes, sometimes messing up is fun because you learn from messing up.
Yes. If you can relax when you're messing up, I think that you can get the audience on your side through anything.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. And if you could laugh at yourself, but never, ever, ever blame the audience
Never.
because they didn't get your joke. Then you need to work on that joke. If they didn't get it, use another one of the punchlines, go somewhere. If it doesn't work, it didn't work. Don't blame them because you weren't funny.
I like doing it in a funny, teasing way where they know I'm just joking. Like, that worked in a nursing home. I just don't get why you're not laughing,
You say that, and when you do, I did a couple during the pandemic. I did a couple of senior homes, and I did a couple of assisted living facilities, and they're different because you really, especially if it's a small room, right? So you're doing 6 or 7 people. You really can't do all your material. You gotta kind of engage the crowd and get to know them, and then once you know a little bit about them, then you can play with them and entertain them. I think oftentimes we as comics think that we always have to go out there and do joke, punchline, joke, set up the whole bit. Sometimes it just have to be yourself. You go, you talk to them, you make them laugh, you tell them stories. Doesn't always have to be the same structure and setup.
Absolutely. Absolutely. God bless you for all that you do for the young people who you're mentoring, your 2 daughters, right? 2
Yeah,
daughters?
2
Yeah,
daughters.
absolutely. And thank you so much for what you're doing in comedy and acting in commercials. And thanks for coming on. Where do you want people to follow you? And when are you going to be performing next?
So I don't have anything booked next because we're waiting on these shows to drop. We were supposed to drop a show this week. It's probably going to drop next week. But if you go to No Filter Comedy, you'll see myself and Jim Maywalt and Flora Gillard and a bunch of us doing a lot of sketches on this No Filter Comedy that we write and produce and do sketch acting in. And I'll send you some links to a lot of stuff you'll find. If you look up No Filter on TikTok and on YouTube, you'll find probably lots of stuff that we've done out there. I will send you some links so you could post them and you can see some of those things. Gentrified, I will send you so you could see that. We were very proud of that when we did that one a few years ago.
Super. Will you do me a favor? Anytime you get a show where you want people to come and support it, please let me know and come back on and plug it, or at least send me flyers. Make sure I don't miss getting to promote you.
Absolutely, I'll do that. And I promise you that the next time I'm in Vegas, that I'm not just doing a drop by, I will come and have a coffee with you. Because the
Yes,
last time
coffee.
we came in and we left quickly with my brothers going back to San Diego. But the next time, I promise, and we'll come and have coffee or lunch. Absolutely.
Super. And we'll gossip about Gladys.
Yes, we will. And I hope she's watching right now. Gladys, no, she's probably sleeping now. Gladys, we love you.
We love Gladys. Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you.